Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Friday, and again, all of our guests today sponsored by the Whistler Golf Club. Big Al and everybody at Whistler Golf Club reminding you for weekly updates on the construction progress on their extensive renovation. Follow them on Instagram at Whistler Golf. Canucks, Oilers tonight, 7 p.m. The preseason will finally come to a close at Rogers Arena for the Canucks and the Oilers. We're joined now by our good pal, Bob Stauffer from 880 Ched and the host of Oilers Now. Bob, thanks for doing this today. How are you?
Good, gentlemen. How you doing?
Very good. Lovely. Very good. So we'll talk about tonight's game, but of course, let's just jump into the deep end here, Bob. What is the latest with Connor McDavid and his possible contract extension with the Edmonton Oilers, of course, entering in his final year, he's entered it, final year in terms of contract with the Oilers?
Yeah, well, maybe you should ask Rick. I don't know. He seems to have a pretty good handle on these things, but I maybe see it from a little bit different perspective because for full disclosure, and I always think this is important, I do work directly for the club. I stated back during the summer that I was 102% convinced that Connor would sign some form of extension. I believe that's still going to come to fruition. I even think there's an outside chance he signs before the start of the regular season. I think it's going to be a short-term deal, and I don't think it's going to be a number that kills the Edmonton Oilers. But I did speak to a couple people in the Oilers hierarchy today, and there was nothing new at this time to report.
So what do you what has been the holdup with Connor wanting to sign? Like the July 1st time came and went. Then it was, okay, wait for training camp. Now we're almost on the eve of the start of the NHL season. What's been the main holdup, you believe, with Connor not signing yet?
Well, Connor's a really detailed guy, and I think he's taken his time with this. As you're probably aware, Jeff Jackson was Connor's agent. He also had Evan Bouchard, and then Jeff became the Oilers' president of hockey operations, even though really on a day-to-day basis, this is kind of Stan Bowman's team. I just think Connor's, making sure that he's comfortable with where he's at. I don't want to speak, and I have had a full disclosure. I've had a chance to, during the first intermission of preseason game against Calgary and of a first intermission of preseason game against I guess it would have been Vancouver. No. Anyways, Winnipeg. I've talked to Connor multiple times, so there's nothing, to me, he's not conducting himself like a guy who's going to be bailing on a team. Like, he's around, he's available, he engages in conversation. This is going to be his first road preseason game tonight. We fly in about an hour and a half here. So, I think he's just being really diligent. Judd Moldaver, who Rick knows quite well, is... has taken over that file. Dave Gagne, who really did have Evan Bouchard to begin with, continues with Wasserman, with Bouchard. They got a 4-year deal done. The Oilers have made a priority of signing their players under Daryl Cates, and I'm going to preface this by saying when Daryl was pursuing the team back in 2007, 2008, we had Wayne Gretzky on our show. And, I was family friends with Ken Nichols. Cal was the chairman of the board of the Oilers. I remember point blank asking Wayne, look, the EIG, the Edmonton Investors Group, has 38 owners. That's a lot of capital between all of them. What are your thoughts on an individual owner if Daryl Cates gets the team? Because this is an organization that sold Wayne Gretzky to LA and sold Mark Messier to the New York Rangers. And Wayne cut me off and said, Bob, not only, I'm here to tell you that had Daryl Cates owned the team when I played, I would have been an Oiler my entire career, and he will make a concerted effort to sign every significant player to a max term length deal. So even though the Oilers got criticism for the 7 years on Nugent Hopkins coming off a 4-goal season in the lockout year in 12-13, the 7 years on Taylor Hall, those were max term length deals. McDavid, 8 years. Draisaitl, 8 years, which ironically enough was criticized, including by some people in your market. An 8-year deal at $8.5 million turned out to be a massive bargain for the Oilers. Darnell Nurse, an 8-year deal. Second 8-year deal for Nugent Hopkins. Second 8-year deal for Draisaitl. So Wayne was right and prophetic. Daryl Cates has signed his best players to max term length deals. We're not going down this path, and part of it, I think, guys, is just we're not sure where the salary cap's going to be in a couple of years. And I think Connor wants to assess where the Oilers are going to be at in a couple of years as well. Now, I should state, I don't know if you guys read The Athletic. Today they finalized their rankings of teams, and they had Edmonton based on their analytics being the top team in the National Hockey League this year. So they said they have the best defense core in the league with the top two players of McDavid and Leon. So I think Edmonton's going to have a real good team this year. I think McDavid's taking his time, and we'll see what happens here over the next few weeks.
Hey, Bob, you were the first to report in the summer that you can see a Vasili Podkolzin contract extension, and guess what? It happened. Talk a little bit about him, the extension. Very sadly, his father passed. He had to go to Russia and back. He's going to be in the lineup tonight. I saw your lineup. But talk about this kid and what he's meant to the Oilers.
Well, I don't understand what happened in Vancouver, and I can't figure out why he couldn't play for Rick Tocchet. Like, if ever there was a player that has the attributes you would think Rick Tocchet would want, a highly competitive player that is physical, that is selfless, that is the first player on the ice for every practice. I'm sort of stunned it didn't work out better. Now, sometimes guys need a second chance. I think the belief of the Oilers management is Vasili's got more offense to give. And I remind your listeners and viewers that Valeri Nichushkin played 58 games one season without scoring a goal.
Yep.
And has had multiple 25-goal seasons since. Podkolzin works his off. The Oilers are going to play McDavid, Draisaitl, and Frederick probably to start the year because they want to slowly integrate Howard and Savoy into the lineup and not put too much pressure on them. But like Vasili tonight's going to play in the second line with Nugent Hopkins and Mangiapane.
Wow.
He was really good, Vasili, last year in the playoffs with Leon Draisaitl. Draisaitl does not sweat fools, okay? There's no BS in his personality. And he has been effusive in his praise of Podkolzin. So the Oilers gave up a fourth in that deal. Maybe the Canucks did Vasili a bit of a solid and gave him a chance somewhere else, but it's certainly worked out for Edmonton since they picked him up.
There's another guy you like, and he's from Richmond, Troy Stecher. He's in the lineup tonight. Talk a little bit about him.
Well, he's in tough. I'm going to be honest with you.
Okay.
Again, circling back to The Athletic, and those guys do a good job in terms of crunching the numbers. They said that the last 3 years, Ekholm and Bouchard have been the top pairing in the league over the last 200 plus games. You guys saw how good Bouchard was during the playoffs 2 years ago. And then Nurse and Wallman had great analytics. Stecher, if Troy Stecher is your number 7 defenseman, I think you got a pretty good team. And Wallman's out. He'll be ready for the start of the regular season. They are going to play Wallman on the right side once we get going. But the other thing is they got a guy named Alec Regula, who Stan Bowman had in Chicago, and he likes this guy a lot. He's a 6'4" righty. He's going to be pushing. I think the Oilers are going to have to keep both Noah Philp and Alec Regula on their roster because I think they might lose those guys on waivers. So, Philp last year fought Mason Gertzen. And had 19 goals for this. He's a 6'3" right shot center, and Regula is a 6'4" right shot D. So there's going to be some hard decisions made here in Oil Country on some players.
You know what? The Oilers goaltenders are good enough to get them to the Stanley Cup Finals. And then when they lose, all the goalies get the blame. Talk a little bit about Skinner and Pickard. A lot of people called for new goalies, Bob.
Did they call for new goalies in Vancouver when Tim Thomas put up a .960 save percentage in the final back in 2011?
Great point.
Right? Like, here's the thing. Edmonton doesn't get past Dallas either year without Stuart Skinner. Skinner was .922 and 24.
Yep.
And made 31 saves in Game 6 when the Oilers got outshot 32-10 at home and won 2-1. And last year against Dallas, he was better. He was at .924 and outdueled Jake Ottinger. And everybody, I think most people think Hellebuck's the best American goalie. Ottinger's probably the second best. And if Demko's healthy, he's the third. So Skinner's still only 26. The Oilers were and I get it, teams get injured. but Edmonton had a lot of bad injuries. Hyman was a massive loss in the final. Nugent Hopkins broke his hand. Ekholm probably shouldn't have been playing. Wallman was, they ran out of steam. And then Kane, and I know we're going to talk briefly about Evander. Just the way the series was managed by the officials, anytime Kane brought a stick up, they were calling a penalty. There were some other players that would lead every scrum with the butt end of their stick that never got called. So it took away Edmonton's depth. And then Skinner, he could have had he should have made a couple more saves, but the Oilers got outplayed in the final 4 games of the series. So let's just be patient on Skinner. It is going to be interesting what happens here. Edmonton, as you know, picked up Connor Ingram.
Yes.
Bill Armstrong in Utah probably did them a solid there. Gave a chance for Ingram to jumpstart his career. Connor Ingram is from Imperial, Saskatchewan. That is the hometown of Chris Knobloch. He's the only NHL player from there. Chris Knobloch's mother and Connor Ingram's mother, who unfortunately passed away about a year ago, they were best friends. Chris Knobloch's favorite teacher growing up was Connor's dad. So I think you're going to see Connor Ingram have a chance here to push Calvin Pickard once he gets in through training camp in the AHL and gets some games in. So the Oilers, it's funny, you look at Vancouver, in a year from now, the Canucks are going to be spending $13 million on goal.
Yeah, they
right,
are.
between Lankinen and Demko. And you look at Edmonton, and they're going to spend $4.6 million this season on 3 goalies. And you might argue none of them are any good, but we'll see. I think that Skinner's going to have a bounce back campaign. I'm not saying he's going to be at 914 like he was 2 years ago, but I don't think he's going to be at 896 like he was last year.
Storylines are plenty with the Oilers, Bob. We really appreciate you taking the time today. Safe travels to Vancouver, and I know we'll talk to you as the season goes along.
Mark my word, Evander Kane, 22 to 27 goals, and the Canucks will re-sign him.
Oh,
okay.
Bob.
I will make note of that clip right now, Bob, for sure.
Yeah, save the clip. Save the clip. Bob, we're going to save
Cheers,
the clip.
fellas. Take care.
Thanks, Bob.
Right.
Appreciate it.